What's up? It's your man from Jackson with the Wealth Exchange. I appreciate you stopping by and listening to the podcast. You know, this podcast is all about exchanging ideas, exchanging information, having real conversations with real people so that you can grow in your wealth and your spirituality at the same time. So today on the show, what I want to talk about is generational wealth, but more specifically, how do you create wealth when you don't come from wealth? It's a big topic. So I got my man with me today. He helped me kick the whole thing off. My man Mondale Smith, a spiritual brother, just fantastic. Just love being with this brother, this man of God. So welcome Mondale back, man. Welcome back. Appreciate you coming on.
Hey man, I appreciate the invite, bro.
Much love, much love. Hey man, number one, you helped kick off first, and so I'm like, I gotta have you come back, man. Drop this spiritual knowledge on the folks, man. So it's funny how we even got into doing, you know, this second episode together, because I said something, I don't even really fully remember, but you said I said something on the first episode that sparked something in you. You're like, hey man, we need to come back. And what was it that got you going from the first one?
It was that first session. You said, you know, if you don't come from wealth, then wealth needs to come from you. And that just, all that, and, you know, I'm laying in bed thinking about that statement. And I'm like, there was such raw truth in that and such accountability baked in that statement that, number one, we have the power and ability, as Deuteronomy 8:18 says, you know, it's the Lord who gives us the ability to get wealth. And so, because he gives us that ability, we need to activate that and do certain things. So even if we don't come from wealth, it is our responsibility to make sure that it comes from us so that future generations can benefit from it.
Yeah, that's so true, man. You know, it's you know, when I think about it, because I didn't come from wealth. You know, my parents didn't have anything to leave me financially. My dad, you know, at least praise God for that. You know, he had at least enough to bury him when he passed away. And I want to leave a legacy for my kids and my kids' kids and everyone that comes after me. And I'm sure the people listening or watching this video today, they're in a similar position. They're like, man, I want to leave. So I want to do better. But then it's like, well, how do you do better? And the reality is that if you did not come from it, just like you were just saying, if you did not come from wealth, it has to come from you, because it has to start somewhere. Somebody has to start it off. Somebody has to get this ball rolling and get it going. You know, it's funny, you know, we were talking about this the other day, and there was a scripture that came to mind. I'm going to pull up the scripture because it kind of leads into how I want to talk about this. It's in Genesis 8:22. And it says, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. And I love that because it's setting up the pattern that, look, no matter what is going to happen, seed time and harvest is going to remain. And I think we got to use that same kind of concept to help us figure out, well, how is wealth going to come out of me? You feel me? So we got to get to the point where we're like, okay, I have to be the person that plants it. Right. So, but that's a hard concept for some of us to get started. Right, man. So if you think about it.
It is very difficult because we live in an instantaneous society. As an example, a couple of years ago, Bloomberg did a study on fast food drive-thrus, and McDonald's got blasted because their wait was 1 minute and 83 seconds from ordering your food to getting to the window to get your food. And they got blasted for 183-second wait. And I thought to myself, that's 3 minutes and 3 seconds to get your food. And they got blasted.
Man, when you need them fries, bro.
I'm good. But we live in such an instantaneous society that I want to get rich now. I want that money now. I need it. And we don't realize that that's not wealth. Wealth is something that is enduring. That it doesn't matter whether you're going through a recession or a pandemic or whatever. Wealth is enduring. It is multi-generational. It is, your money lasts longer than time.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good right there. Yes. So you gotta define for the folks what wealth is, because a lot of people just think, you know, I want to have some money, I want to have a nice car, I want to have a vacation, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to bling, I want to drip a little bit, have a little drippage, right? And there's a place for that. I get that. There's a place for that. But true wealth, real wealth isn't flashy.
No.
Real wealth surpasses time, man. It's something that lasts. It's legacy building. It's sustaining. And that's so true. I love what you just said there, man.
It's gently quiet. I've rarely come across flashy wealth.
Yeah.
It's rare. I've been around some decently well-off people, and they are not flashy any way, form, or fashion. They enjoy quality stuff, don't get me wrong, but they're not ostentatious and flashy and all of that. So they have a long range view. And it is, again, does your money last longer than time?
That's
Or
so
stated
good.
differently, can your money outlast your life?
Can it outlast your life? And then
If
how
your
many
money
lives can it
can't
outlast?
outlast your life, you're not wealthy.
That is so good. That's good,
So
man.
it don't matter what number it is.
Yeah.
So it could be $1 million, it could be $2 billion, it could be $34.72. Can your money outlast your life?
But let's talk about that more, man, because here's where I think people struggle. This concept of, like, that goes back to the Genesis verse, right? And that, because that's how you do it. Because people will say, well, how does wealth come out of me? You have to be the person that plants. You have to be the person that plants the wealth. You have to sow the seed. So let's talk about sowing the seed, because there's a lot of people that they're not sowing the seed and they're just kind of hoping. They're lottery hoping, or they're hoping on the next MLM thing to get them where they need to go. And they have, a lot of us have these fantasies about wealth, right? But if you're not planting, you can't harvest. And then the other people behind you can't harvest. Right. So how do we get people to start planting, man, planting the seeds to start harvesting this wealth?
I think the number one thing they need to do is they need to realize it starts with sacrifice. And for me to get something in the future, or for future generations to get something, I have to sacrifice something today. And that is planting that seed. And that seed could be investing in a Roth IRA. It could be investing in a CD, a certificate of deposit. It could be putting $25 a month in a bank account and just let it grow over time. It's saying, hey, I'm not going to buy whatever, and I'm going to repurpose these funds for the future. But you have to sacrifice. If you don't have that sacrificial mentality, you'll never, ever get wealthy.
Sacrificial mentality, because that, ooh, man, that's so good, dude. Because peep this, right? Because if you didn't come from it, somebody has to start it. And whoever starts it is probably going to have to make some sacrifices, work some longer hours, do a little bit more work, study a little harder than the people that have to come after them, because somebody has to start it.
Yes.
And if you don't start it, you got to sacrifice. That's so true, man. Whether that's putting the money, I love what you said, putting the $25 away, doing something. But here's the other part about sacrifice that I think people miss, right? So yeah, you got to sacrifice. You maybe have to give up your cable. You might have to give up, your hobby or something to put not saying you got to give up everything that you love, but there's some kind of sacrifice is going to happen for the payoff. So how do people switch from a all about me mentality, right, to, oh, I'm thinking generations after me? Because it's hard. It's easy. It's one thing for a person to say, oh, I'm sacrificing for my kids. I think everybody can get that.
Yes.
But it's another thing to say, oh, I'm sacrificing for 3, 4, 5 generations I don't even know yet, who won't even know who I am probably. How do you get somebody to sacrifice, to deny themselves now something financially so they can save and do something for somebody that's not even here?
Dude, I wish I knew that answer. The closest thing I can think of, and I really don't even know if this is a good example, is to ask yourself, what do you wish your great, 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 great grandparents did? And how would it have been had they set aside whatever, or generations before you? That's the only thing that I can think of, because, or better yet, I don't know about most people, but my 3rd or 4th great grandparents, probably enslaved, they were probably, unable to participate in our economy as we are today.
Yeah, right.
So the fact that we have the ability to open up a account where we can trade stocks, the fact that we can go open up a bank account and be banked and actually be a part of the economic system, puts us at an advantage over prior generations. And so we have a responsibility, in my opinion, to take care of the generations in our family that come after us, because we live in one of the wealthiest nations on the planet. And so while your statement rings true, if you don't come from wealth, wealth should come from you. You're living in one of the wealthiest nations on earth in all of human history. If you can't make it here,
Where you gonna make it?
man,
I feel you, man. I feel you. You know, I think part of it too, that the answer to that question is people have to have vision, right? Even the word talks about that. We perish for a lack of vision, right? People perish for a lack of vision. So your vision, people have to learn how to cast vision beyond themselves, right? Because we live, when you are making decisions, I call them decisions out of a place of desperation, right? When you're constantly struggling to pay bills or whatever your economic situation somebody might be in, I'm paying bills, I'm in debt, I'm trying to do all this other stuff. Your mind focuses on the here and now. Mm-hmm. And most of the decisions you make are survival related decisions, right? Yes. Yeah. So the first thing I think people got to do is, one, have a vision, get themselves out of survival mode, because once you're out of survival mode, then you can start thinking about other things, right? If I'm on a desert island and I'm stranded, first thing I'm thinking about, I need food, I need shelter, I need protection. But now if I get that stuff answered, then I can start laying on the beach and start philosophizing. Okay, what else is, once I get those needs, I think that's the first thing, man. People got to get a strong financial foundation. They have to get out of survival mode, and then again, start casting that vision. And I think that'll help.
That is the number one thing. If you don't have that, that base camp or that foundation, as you call it, then everything else is non-existent, because you don't have the mentality, you don't have the wherewithal to even afford to have the mentality to think long-term, because you don't know where food is coming from, you don't know where shelter is coming from. Mm-hmm. You got to work 3 or 4 shifts in one day or what have you, multiple jobs, take care of kids. It can be very difficult to have to contend with basic.
Yeah, man. And I know it's got to be resonate with somebody who might be, watching this or listening to this later, because they probably think about that. I want to do better. I want wealth to come from me, but I'm still struggling with the now. Yeah. I can barely get past, thinking about next week, and let alone thinking 5, 10, 300 years, however many generations after me. And I think that's so true, man. But going back to that farmer's analogy, that's something we can relate to in Iowa. We're in Iowa, that farmer's analogy. They got to first, plant the seed. They got to plant it. You got to go out there and do something. And I like what you said, even if it's $25, even something, plant something. Maybe, like I said, you get your foundation right, you get yourself out of survival mode, and you can start planting more. But even while you're in survival mode, maybe that seed is just knowledge. Maybe it's just reading, getting yourself acclimated, right? But then once you got to now nurture that seed, right? So how do you nurture the seed once you start taking care of, planting and getting that information out there? How do you start nurturing that to keep it growing?
I think what you have to do is, to align with that vision, you got to plant with expectation. No farmer plants a seed without expecting a harvest. So if you plant it, you have to expect something to come out of it. So you want to take care of it. You want to secure it. You want to water that seed. You put it in an interest-bearing account, so that $25 becomes $25.03 after a month or what have you. And then you put in more money and just keep going and protect it so that it can become something bigger later. And so don't just put away money just to put away money. Do it with an expectation. Put a demand on it and say, this money needs to be utilized for school, down payment on a house, or, college education fund for my future generations or what have you. You have to put a demand on it. Give it a name. Name your accounts so that this is my rainy day fund. This is my vacation fund. This is my emergency fund. You put those names on and give them a job, and then they start to work for you versus you work for them.
I love that, man. Make a demand of your money. I love that, man. Make a demand of it. That'll preach right there.
Money was meant to serve us, not us to serve money.
Yeah.
Money is a very, very poor master. It is a very poor master. It is a wonderful slave. It is a wonderful servant. Money was intended to serve us. But when we flip the script and put money over us, then we start doing things that it was never intended to do. Money to me is no different than a hammer or a screwdriver. It is a tool to be used to build something that I wanted to build.
That's so good, man. Yeah, seriously, for anybody watching, listening, this let that resonate, man, because that really is hitting me right now. What are you demanding of your money? Because and it goes back to the vision part we
Yeah.
were talking about. Because part of demanding something from it, you got to know what you want it to do.
Right.
And so so people listening, what are you demanding of your money, or are you making any demands of your money? Are you simply saying, well, I don't know, it does what it wants to do. But you have to tell it what you want it to do. If you have to say, hey, you need to start creating a legacy for me, then let me start taking these steps to start creating a legacy. That was good, man.
I say one of the weirdest things, and hopefully the viewers don't think I'm too crazy for this.
Mm,
But I think of money in these terms. Money loves to go to people who tell it what to do.
mm, yeah,
If you don't tell money what to do, it will leave you and go to someone who will tell it what to do.
yeah,
When you put a demand on your money, when you give your money a job and say you will be here as a rainy day fund, you will be here for healthcare expenses or whatever, what have you, your money then has a reason to serve you. If you don't tell your money what to do, it will leave your pockets or your purse and go to somebody else who will tell it what to do, because money loves to be told
what to do. Man, that's good. You jumped on all kind of gems tonight. I'm feeling that. It's kind of like a soldier without a general.
Yes.
Soldiers are ready to fight. They're ready to do what they got to do, but somebody got to be willing to lead and tell them, hey, you do this, you do that. And so either you're telling your money to create a legacy for you,
Mhm.
or you're telling your money to create a legacy for somebody else.
Somebody else. It's going to create a legacy.
It's doing it for one or the other.
And so, but it goes back to your vision. What is your vision? Is your vision for it to serve you, or is it your vision for it to serve someone else because you don't have a vision?
Yeah, it's going to serve somebody.
It is. It is. It's what
So
it does.
whose vision is it going to? Is it going to your vision, or is it going to somebody else's vision? That's good, man. That's good. So they got to plant.
Yes.
They got to plant. They got to nourish the seed.
Yes.
I would say, going back to what you just said, that we have to invite God into our wealth journey as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's God that supplies the rain. If I'm the farmer, right? I don't control the rain. It's God. I plant, but somebody else has to supply. God has to supply the rain. So I know a lot of people haven't even invited God on their wealth journey, and that will make up the difference. If I can think of one thing that will shorten a gap, it's inviting God on the journey, whatever that is. So like we already talked about when we did the first podcast, there's a wealth gap, right? And that, I didn't come from wealth, and the generations past me didn't come from wealth. And you're like, okay, how are you going to catch up with all these other people that got money? That's the best way I can think of to shorten the gap. But a lot of us haven't even invited God in our finance. And I'm not talking about just giving, right? I'm talking about inviting. Are we living our lives in such a way where we're praying to God about our finances, our spending, our vision for our money? Are we praying to God about asking where the troops, where we should send the troops out, man? So I think that's another part.
Asking for wisdom as the general over your finances. Lord, give me wisdom to execute and to call out the shots for them to do.
Right. Right. He'll tell you what war to fight.
Which ones to walk away from.
Right, exactly. Which ones you need to back off from, which ones to fight, and which ones he'll say, don't worry about this, I'm sending in a nuke, I got you. We got you covered. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So we got to sow. We got to plant, we got to sow, we got to nurture. Wouldn't you say we also got to exercise some amount of patience?
A lot. Now that's what we are not. I can't talk about nobody else. I'm going to talk about me.
Right.
Patience is not necessarily the biggest forte of mine. And especially when you start off early, the Bible says, do not despise small beginnings.
That's right. That's right.
And so you got to be okay with starting where you are. And I would say, even before you start where you are, forgive yourself for the past. You can't make up for the past. You can't make up for the mistakes, car bills, bankruptcies, whatever. Don't worry about that. Student loan debts, medical bills. Yeah.
Right.
Start where you are today and make a plan to move forward. Move forward. I think Lot's wife is a great example. She turned into a pillar of salt because she looked back.
Yeah.
God wants you to look forward. He got you focused on what's ahead of you, not what's behind you. So when it comes to this whole situation, you got to be able to move forward with your mentality and start today with the small beginning that you have. And then over time, beautiful thing is compound interest. It'll start growing and growing and growing. But start right here, right now, today. Have that patience to endure. And I tell you, when you endure, you'll start to see the fruits of that endurance build, not only for yourself, but also in your bank account as well.
Mm. But what about if you have that patience, right? You planted the seeds to build wealth, to build generational wealth. You were watering them, you were nurturing them, you've invited God in, you were having the patience. But what if you don't get to do the harvest?
You
Because every
probably,
farmer, plants because they want to harvest.
yeah,
What if you don't get to do the harvest?
yeah. And so you got to be okay with not harvesting, and because it depends on the demands you put on your money. So if you put a demand on the money to be generational, multi-generational in
Mhm.
utility, then you probably won't reap the benefit. You have to be okay with that because you want 2 or 3 generations after you to reap the benefits of the seeds that you planted. And
Right.
so that's something that you must be okay with. To again, we're talking wealth. Wealth means money lasts longer than time.
Mm, mm.
So if you want that money to go out 40, 50, 60 years into the future, unless you got a magic pill that I don't know about that helps you live super long, you probably won't be able to enjoy that harvest. But maybe you can do this and substitute. You can enjoy knowing that future generations will utilize those funds, and
Wow.
it'll be a blessing to them.
It's something so simple that I wish more people would take advantage of. And it goes into exactly what you're saying. It's a very simple way to very cheaply create generational wealth, but people don't do it. Life insurance.
Dude,
Extremely simple way.
don't get me started.
You buy a policy,
Don't get me started.
you get it early enough, it'd be super cheap. You pay, whatever you're paying a month or a year to get that fund. And you can get, let's say you pay 20,000 or whatever thousand for coverage over your lifetime, but your policy is worth $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 or whatever. You have now passed on, which all of us is going to do unless Jesus tarries, right? You have now passed on $800,000, $900,000 of wealth to the people that come after you. But guess what? It takes sacrifice to pay monthly money every single month or every single year for something that you definitely aren't going to see, which is the life insurance. You're not going to see it. But that is something simple people could do. And I don't understand why more people don't do that. The cost benefit versus payout and how it can impact your generational line it goes back to what we talked about in the first episode about generational wealth and bridging the gap. Well, if you were from a 5-person family and every single person in that family got life insurance and then that got passed on, plus the knowledge of how to take care of it,
Absolutely.
that's a wrap.
So you spot on. Now you ain't got to worry about how somebody's going to get buried. You don't have to worry about the funeral services and all of that stuff. You ain't got to worry about bills because you're right. The life insurance comes in and kicks in. You're spot on. The younger you are, the lower the premiums, the better coverage you can get. And so that's something that we talked in our first session about being unbanked and underbanked. Black community is uninsured and underinsured.
Yeah.
And so we will spend on average more money a month on our cell phone bills than we will on putting money in savings accounts or in life insurance or any insurance for that matter. But yeah, you're right. You can probably get a good $500,000 or greater insurance policy if you're a healthy individual for under $50 a month.
Oh yeah, it costs nothing, and you can easily that money, especially if you now that's a way a person can kind of have the best of both worlds, right? Because you can now still go plant the seeds for your today, right? You can go plant the seeds for your retirement and all other stuff, and go plant the seeds of your business and all these different things you want to do, and then no matter what, that $50 a month you got that you're sacrificing, not eating your ice cream or your McDonald's. Okay, quit eating your whatever it is you're eating and go take whatever, cut off your cable, go get some bloody life insurance so that your people can have some generational wealth. And now you got the best of both worlds. You're still chasing after your vision, and their vision is also secured. That's an easy win.
And guess what? They're depending on you anyway to be a breadwinner. So when you pass away, then they should be financially set. The other thing that you hit on, and I don't know that everybody captured, is you have to train them and teach them how to manage the funds that they will get. Because, when you get this lump sum of money that can come your way, whether it's $2,000 or $20,000 or $200,000, if you don't know how to manage it and don't tell it where to go, it's going to go to
Right.
someone who will tell it what to do.
Exactly, exactly. That's such a good point, because yeah, if you do take that step, which I encourage everybody to do, to do that, to build wealth and make it generational wealth. Yeah, you got to educate people how to handle the funds, because then it'll pass to that generation, but it won't pass to the one after and the one after and the one after that. You're so spot on, man.
Yeah.
So that's so good. I love that concept of sacrificing a little bit of my now so that people after me. It's kind of going back. I think I said it in that first podcast. Warren Buffett says that we live we're sitting under the shade of a tree someone else planted.
Absolutely.
So we got to be tree planters. We got to plant some shade trees for other people, and we got to sacrifice. We may have to make some financial sacrifices to get ourselves out of survival mode, so that we can in turn reap a harvest now, but then other people after us can reap a harvest way better than us. I expect my children to do better than me.
Yeah.
I want them to, and it is my job to set them up to do so. And I'm going to deliver what I can to them, and say, and with the expectation that when they pass, that they are going to be leaving 10 times more than what I left them.
Absolutely.
That's the expectation. So I love that, man. I think that's so good. So, we could keep talking about this. We've been talking about it for a while. We can keep talking about this, man. But I want to kind of, wrap up a little bit here as we kind of closing out here. And I want to do key takeaways with you, man, and just kind of, for key takeaways in terms of did something resonate here that you want to leave the people listening with here today. And then after key takeaways, I maybe want to give the people some practical steps and things that they can do to start on this journey. So what's a key takeaway for you?
And I think the key takeaway for me, and a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway, is accountability and sacrifice. So you have to hold yourself accountable to do the work, plant the seeds, and then you have to sacrifice. You have to forego something for the vision of getting something else. Chris Valentine, who was a pastor at Bethel Church in Redding, California, states, vision gives pain purpose. And that sacrifice that you go through, you only do that because you have a vision in the future for something greater. So the pain you go through today, that vision enables you to get through that pain. And so hold yourself accountable. Don't despise the small beginnings, and the sacrifice will pay huge dividends in the future if you don't give up.
That's so good, man. My key takeaway, that's really good. That's spot on. My key takeaway would be kind of what we talked about too, that sacrifice and that concept of get yourself out of survival mode. If you're just in survival mode with your finances, get out of survival mode. Take the course, take a class, do what you got to do so that you can start planting seeds and start planting generational wealth along the way. And it goes back to that Genesis verse, seed time and harvest remains. That's a biblical principle. You plant, harvest, plant, nurture, harvest. That's a thing. So if you're not planting any financial seeds, there's going to be nothing for people after you to harvest. So that I appreciate that, man. So practical things people can do. I always want to lead. I want to hit people with the spiritual, but I want to hit them with the practical too, man. So, a couple of practical things for people listening and watching. You might be thinking, man, where do I start? How do I start this journey to, have wealth come from me if I didn't come from a wealthy family? I'd say the very first thing you want to do is make sure your foundation is intact. Your foundation has to be good. We've talked about this a little bit. So what is your foundation? Do you understand biblical financial principles? Do you understand about budgeting, about getting out of debt, about investing, about creating extra income? Do you understand these concepts? If not, then take a class on it. I offer tons of classes on it. If you go to my website, freetoserve.org, there's classes there you can take on them. There's tons of information I'm giving here in my private group on Facebook, all about those same subjects. So learn it, take it and learn it. The second practical thing I would tell you to do after you've done that is identify your path to wealth. Right? Once you've got your foundation down and you got that stuff, then now you've got your debt situated, you got your budget, you know what you're doing. Now you're ready to start going on a wealth path. And so and I say this just about every other video, man. People should probably be tired of me saying it. But there's really three main ways people get wealth in this world. You can study this out and look at every millionaire, billionaire. It all comes from one of three paths. Either one, real estate, either investing in it, selling it, flipping it, trading it, something to do with property. The second way is some type of business, either small business that grew to some other type of business, or people having ownership in a business that then blew up. The third way is personal finance, investing, saving, those kind of ways. So once you identify your path, maybe you're called to real estate or you like that path. All right, start reading it, start studying, start planting the seeds of knowledge. Especially we're getting ready to go into 2021. Boom, start planting some seeds of knowledge in that. And that was another practical thing I want to let you hit on, because you hit on it about passionate to kids. And I think there's a practical step there I want you to kind of touch on, something practical that they can do.
I mean, just the easiest thing, and you talked about the biblical foundation,
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 22, it says, train a child in the way they should go, and when they go older, they will not depart from it. The point in all of this is for it to be multi-generational. So we want to make sure that our children are exposed to financial literacy, that they are comfortable with addition and subtraction. They are comfortable managing money so that when the funds transfer to them, they will be good stewards and model the behaviors that you have already set in motion. And they won't squander the money and wealth that you transfer over to them. Make it a family affair. Invite the children into the bill paying process. Invite them into reading scriptures about finances. And it'll be a blessing to you and to them long term.
Oh, that's good. I love that. That's an awesome practical tip. Invite them into the journey. Invite them to plant some seeds with you. And then,
absolutely.
Right. Farmers, they make it a family affair. Everybody get out in that field and do some work. So
you'll be playing on PS3, you don't get out here and get in the field.
Right. You don't get in this field, man. Do some stuff. That's good stuff, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you being on, brother. We definitely got to do this again. I hope everybody's been blessed by listening and hearing a little bit. If you've been blessed, if you found this conversation useful, please go ahead and like, share it out. Let's get this out to other people. Leave a comment. Let us know that it's been a blessing to you. Hey, thank you again, Mondale, man. We're going to do it again.
Appreciate the invite, brother. This was a blast.
All right, brother. Hey, as always, I'm your man, Ephraim Jackson, your guide to kingdom wealth building. This has been the Wealth Exchange. Thank you for watching. Always remember, who the sun sets free is free indeed. Break every chain that binds you. Build some generational wealth. Plant some shade trees. I'll talk to you later.